So, first of all, a little bit about myself. So, I'm the founder and CEO of Annika Digital, and we've been doing these webinars now since the beginning of COVID. There's about 115 if you include some of the conferences. So, it seemed quite logical to convert it into a podcast. And the main thing really is that podcasts get to such a wide audience, and we thought it was a good way of actually getting people to find out about the webinars and also to find out about Annika. So over Christmas, or just before Christmas, we decided we were going to go for it. And we knew that we were going to come back with a chat GPT. So I got an internal team together. So the first thing I like to do is thank Andras, Tom, Emil, and Gurpreet, who Gurpreet is going to sort of take over from Andras. But Andras, I'd say, was the main man. He did all the design work. He also did a lot of the editing. So he's been, without him, I don't think this would have got off the ground. Tom, I'm also going to thank him for the name. We were going to call it Ask Annika, which is what we call our emails. But he said, "Oh, just add the ST on the end of Annika, and it works." So that's why it's called Annika Cars. And then Emil also came up with some ideas about how to use some social media snippets to try and get it out there a bit more. So that's the core guys. However, I couldn't have done this without the rest of the team, because the team have been involved with actually presenting webinars. So I think we've got 10 recorded so far, of which 6 are up. This will be, I think, the 11th since Christmas. So basically the idea is that after every webinar, we go on and record the podcast, which then gets edited and is released. Eventually it will be released on a weekly basis, but at the moment we're just catching up with the ones we've already got. And then with regards to this slide is Nick from what we normally talk about, from what Annika does. And of course, that's what we're talking about in the webinar. I'm just going to take a sip of water, excuse me. But we are covering a few extra subjects. We cover things like, we've been covering a bit about ChatGPT, because of course, ChatGPT, GPT-4 has just been released. But we also do some other interesting stuff. We've done some sort of management stuff and business stuff as well to complement the digital marketing focus. So this is what I'm going to cover today. So there's quite a lot to get through. I won't go through all of this, but basically I'm talking you through the process that we covered, how we actually got to where we've got to now. And one thing that you'll notice is quite a big emphasis in the middle on the actual software that we use. You can pretty much do all of this without setting up a studio, although we have done that at Annika. But you can see as I walk through that depending on how much budget you've got, you can really do this, for probably an investment of £50 to £100 in the first month. And most of that will go on the software subscription fees. And you won't really need to buy loads and loads of equipment. So if you haven't got the facilities, don't worry about that. You can still get started. So I guess the first thing to do then is to give you a bit of an introduction why it's so important. I think Carol asked a question about this. So there's something like 1.3 million podcasts in English, and 19 million, which I think is about 20% of Brits listen. I'm not quite sure how many podcasts there are in the UK, but if you compare that with websites, it's tiny. We're still at the beginning of this stage. And interestingly, if you look at the data, the most popular podcasts are normally either weekly or slightly more often than weekly. And even ones like Neil Patel have only got 300 episodes. So most of this has happened since COVID. And so there's easily time to catch up. And you'll find that's very similar with videos as well. So generally business videos, if you've got more than about 50, you're probably going to be in the top 20%, because lots of people do 1 or 2 and then never get any further. So a lot of this is about that sustainability. The other thing that you need to know is, although that comedy and politics and news seem to be the most popular ones, a lot of people are in there to learn something. And a lot of people are also, while they're commuting or traveling. Now, of course, we're not as many people in our sector are commuting or traveling, but you can still see from the average times in a minute that they're basically doing it while they're getting ready for work, or at the beginning of the day or the end of the day, rather than during the work day. And then the other thing that, of course, has happened is on the back of that, there's a massive advertising opportunity. So a lot of people are doing podcasts to make money. I've not really covered that today, but there's two aspects of this. You need to actually spend money to promote your podcast, but then once you get a decent size audience, then potentially you can make money as well if you want to. The top podcasts in the UK is The Rest is Politics, which is Andy Stewart and the guy who was the Labour news spin doctor for the Labour for Tony Blair, whose name's completely gone out of my head. Then you got Stephen Bartlett, Stereo CEO, which most people know. Then the news agents is Emily Matterley and quite a few of the news people. Then This is Peter Crouch. This Rest is History. I'm not quite sure what that one is. Then you got The Witches of Jade Colin. Then you've got a few international ones, like I can't remember. I think this one is this one's an international one as well. But you can get all these charts. They're available through various directories. Chartable is another one. This is the actual iTunes, the ones that are most popular with iTunes. There's a similar list for Spotify. And iTunes and Spotify and the BBC are the most important distribution networks in the UK. This is the most popular times. You can see this is the Radar UK Radar figures. It's a massive panel. And you can see that live radio obviously peaks at travelling time as well. And you can see that podcast is slightly later. So I think what's happening is they're not listening. They're using podcasts at the beginning of the working day. So very similar to this webinar. But then you get a little bit of a spike again later on. And then also last thing at night, it's almost like people listen to podcasts when they go to bed or at the end of the day if they're fed up with the telly. So that's quite interesting as well. The other interesting thing is how long podcasts last. Most people's commutes are 30 minutes to 60 minutes long, particularly if you're in the train or you're in a car. So there's a big spike in popularity of between 20 and 40 minutes, which is what we're aiming for. But you do get a lot of people watching 40 to 60 and even over an hour. So you can see that the really short ones, there's some people that do really short on a really regular basis, sort of 5 to 10 minutes, but they're not as popular as the ones where you're actually sitting and listening to something and getting really into it. And of course, during that period, you've got somebody's undivided attention, which is why it's so important for advertising and engagement with people. And with regard to research, which is really your first stage, there's lots of places to start. So you can obviously study competitors' podcasts, look at different formats, analyze which ones have worked really well, and understand what the topics and themes are. I'm going to come on to themes in a minute, but I would say the best place to go is to Spotify. Also, this is really useful when you're trying to design what your graphics are going to look for. So I typed in digital marketing and then I can see what the most popular ones are and get a really good idea of the way that they are sort of promoting themselves, really, because and it's really bright colours, big writing. So this is the Digital Marketing Podcast, which has been around for about 3 years. This predates COVID. And then you've got Neil Patel, and I can't remember his colleague's name, that they have lots of regular ones. This is the Digital Marketing Institute, which of course most of you know because that's the course that we sell. So you or the Digital Boot Camps is based on that course as well. So you can sort of see some examples. You can also go into Google because you can actually get listed in Google Podcasts. And again, you can see at the top, you can actually see the images again, which is again quite useful. There's about 40 listed for digital marketing in Google. And But if you slide down a little bit into the SEO, this is where I think it gets a bit more interesting, because you get these blogs. Now, most of these blogs are on digital directories or distribution directories. So you can see you've got various different ones there. But I've been looking at Podspot, you've got Listen Notes and things like that. And what they've done is they create dynamic pages, which they've optimized, and then these get found. And this is their way of advertising themselves, but also really useful for you doing your own research. So again, a really good resource there. And then this is a good example. So this is FeedSpot. I think I might have got that wrong later on in the slides. I have to fix that. But they've got 60 best digital marketing podcasts. And you'll see later that you can advertise in here as well. Okay, strategy and approach then. So first of all, you need some clear goals. You need to align those with what you're trying to do within your business. You need to set your KPIs and establish a timeline for achieving the objectives. So effectively, we started recording. We got all the infrastructure and the software and everything researched over Christmas. And then we came back ready to record the first one in January, having decided what software we're going to use. And then we spent a lot of time in parallel sorting out the design, loading everything up, sorting out the editing, then later on sorting out the equipment side of things. So we actually really did this really quickly, pretty much made a decision the last week of December, and then we started recording in January. But because of the editing process and things, we only went live. So it took us about 8 weeks to go live. But by then we'd already got 6 recorded. And we've got another 4 in the bag that are just going through the editing process now. So most people recommend that if you're going to do this, you've already recorded 5 before you get going. So for example, if you miss a week, we had a couple of times when people, did their webinar, but then they weren't available to record straight after. So you need a little bit of flexibility in the schedule to do that. So the theme is probably the most important point because you need to identify your niche and it needs to align with what you want to do. So ideally what you want to do is showcase your expertise or any unique selling points, and it has to be something that your target audience is interested in. You need to think about different formats. Is it going to be a panel? Is it going to be an interview? Is it just going to be a sort of a monologue? Are you going to tell stories? And what you need to do is be consistent in the theme and style. And also the other thing about it is that it is possible to evolve it based on the feedback. So for example, you with a lot of the broadcast tools, you can have polls and, sort of almost like a live Q&A, so that you can get feedback and get an idea. And also, if you look at the statistics, if people sort of leave after 5 minutes, then you're not floating their boat, and then you need to look about what you're doing. So I've highlighted in yellow the important points throughout this. So in the end, we came down that it was obvious what we should be doing. We should be focusing on our digital marketing. We were already doing our webinars, which, to be honest, most people don't do weekly webinars. We've had that sort of sticking power to have done this for 2 years now, or nearly 3 years. Actually, it is 3 years. Gosh, that's quite scary that we've been doing that for so long. Although the name evolved, we've ended up with Anacast as our name. So this is the sort of thing you need to be thinking about when you look at your approach. And I'll go through these and then I'll show you ours. So first of all, understand who your target audience is. We've talked about your objectives. You need to understand whether you're going to do audio or video. Now, that's a really important point because we started off planning to do video so it could go onto YouTube as well, in the same way that we do the webinars on a video format. But actually, we had serious problems when we tried to edit it. It was easy to edit the audio, but then it made it really difficult to audit the video as well. So at the moment, what we've decided to do is, because most people are recording remotely in the same way that I'm doing this webinar from home and not at the office, most of them will be recorded audio, and then we'll have 1 or 2 one-offs that we're recording in the studio that we've created in a meeting room at Anika. And what we'll do is we'll use the video for snippets. So it's recorded in video format, but we'll also do some sort of in situ when we're in the office once a month when everybody's there. we'll record a couple of snippets there, and that will be in a video format. You also need to decide the frequency and the length of the videos, and who's your host is going to be. That needs to be somebody that's reasonably well recognized, because they need to use their social media. So obviously, as CEO of Annika, and I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I love doing this. You know, most people don't like doing this at all. And then the style and any collaboration. So in my next slide, I've actually brought up what we're doing. So you can see our target audience is business and potential clients. Our objective is awareness, thought leadership, trust, and new business leads. We've gone for audio with video snippets. It's going to be weekly, and the final video would be 30 to 60 minutes, which will then complement the webinars where you can see the slides. I'm the host, and the co-host is Tom Shadlow. Just want to give a bit of a call out for Matt. Matt Cooking also volunteered to do that, but due to different circumstances, which we'll talk about later, another day, Tom's taken over the reins of that. The style is going to be interview, informal, technical, educational, and basically, you know, we know our stuff. Whereas in these webinars, we try not to swear. In the podcast, you know, we don't mind a little bit of, you know, we know our shit sort of thing. So though it's more informal than the webinar style. So apologies to anybody that doesn't like that language, and we don't swear all the way through or anything, but it's just a slightly more, it's a conversation. So it's very different from the webinar where we're presenting. In the podcast, we're discussing, and we can really delve into the subject in a lot more detail. So it does cover. So for example, we did one with Rachel last week where we were talking about Facebook ads, and actually the podcast was getting started with, whereas a lot of the others are how-tos, and the how-tos are much more technical than the getting started ones. And then what we're doing is we're discussing the webinar with a presenter, and that could be staff or guests. So for example, Martin Broadhurst actually did our first one. He's my sort of go-to local AI guru, and we were talking about ChatGPT. Okay, so the next thing is the content calendar. So you can see that we're actually using our webinar program as our content calendar, which makes it nice and easy. But if you aren't doing webinars, you need to plan it ahead. And as I said, you really need to be planning, you know, a couple of months in advance, and you need to get at least a month's actually recorded before you go live, and that will help you. And then the other thing that I recommend you do is you create a script. So at the end of each webinar, myself and the presenter get onto the software, which is like a Zoom type call, where both of us are being recorded, and I just brief them this brief. So this is exactly what we're going to cover. So I start off with an introduction, and then I ask them to tell a bit about themselves. Then I ask them to talk about the webinar, and then they explain the points that were covered in the webinar. Then we go into a discussion on what was presented, and that is interactive. So I don't wait until they've finished. You know, we have a conversation at each of the different stages. And then if necessary, we go into any bits in more detail. At the end, the guest outlines any key takeaways, and then we say where you can get more information, and then I just do the roundup. So what we do is we record 45 minutes to about an hour and 15 at the most, but then that's edited down to hopefully an hour, 30 to 60 minutes, although we've got one or two that just go slightly over the hour. Okay, so branding and design then. So you're probably going to need Photoshop to do this. So you're going to need to come up with a name and a tagline. You need to have visual. I love, this is what Tom created, which is the new Annika branding with the ring, but he's added the headphones and the mic. I really love that. I think it's brilliant. You need the podcast cover art, you need the landing page, you need all the ads, etc. We haven't done music yet. We will do that. And that's part of us sort of as we wanted to launch and then sort of learn to how to improve it. But that's definitely something that we're going to do. So this is an example. I've just copied this from the our server of a load of the images. So you've got different ones. So this is the cover. So this will be what you'd see in Spotify. What we've noticed, this is the cover of Spotify. What we've noticed is the text isn't big enough. So we're gonna play around with this design and improve it. And then these are the social posts, and then this is YouTube, and then this is a snippet which is recorded within the system. This is the header, which you'll see on the landing pages in a bit longer. And then in the YouTube, we actually have a widget which syncs with the sound. So that's actually quite dynamic. So you can see it's all got the yellow rings on the dark background. It's included the faces, so people will become familiar with the faces. And we've also used the numbering system with the hashtag, so that people know what number the episode it is, but also they can start using the hashtag Anicast as this one here as a social tag as well. This is the YouTube creative. So just a note on YouTube, I thought it was applicable to bring it here. What we're going to be doing is we're using a bit of software. So it's got a circular sound bar, and also we can also use a transcription. So as it goes across, you can see the words, but it's actually going to be audio, and then we'll get that set up so that this isn't the final creative, by the way. This is just sort of playing around with it. And then what will happen is that when we do a video, we can have a video version as well as just the audio version. Okay, so coming on to equipment then, I think this is going to surprise most people, because the initial scare was that, oh, this is going to be really expensive, but it's not. So what I've done is I've actually broken this down into what you might need. So if you're going to just be recording virtually, that's you plus somebody else on your laptop from home, and you do need to find the right room, because some rooms are really echoey. So you need to decide whether you're going to have a background behind you. You need the lighting set up so that you're lit from the front rather than behind. Otherwise, you look like you've got a halo. I'd actually recommend you buy a ring light. They're about £15. You might want headphones, and you probably want a separate microphone. It really depends on how new your laptop is. I've got a very new laptop and the sound quality is really good. Also, you might want to actually record the sound even on your smartphone, because that can sometimes be better than the laptop audio as well. Now, if you look at this, you could spend 70 quid on a decent microphone. You could, if you haven't got headphones already, you might spend £100 on headphones, and a ring light is 15 quid. But what I recommend is you try first, and then you gradually add on the things that you need, and see how you get on. If you're going to set up a studio, so we converted our small meeting room, which wasn't really being used, with everybody basically working mainly from home. That's got a reasonably nice environment, but it did suffer from having very open glazing. We've got like glass panels, and also because we're by the end of the street, it was very noisy. So we had to use black curtains, which also got some noise proofing qualities, to black out the sunlight. Otherwise, what happens is during the day, the light will change. But also we can use that for noise proofing. I'll come on to the light bit in a second. We then bought microphones, and we have got 2 separate microphones going into each laptop, but we've also bought sound shields, because one mic was better than the other, and what was happening, one mic was picking up the sound of the other. Now, fortunately, the sound is recorded independently, and you can filter out the low volume sound using Adobe Audition. So what happened is that we've now bought sound shields, which basically go round behind the mic. So effectively what happened is it's like a barrier. So the mic is really one directional. It's only faces you. You'll see this in a minute when I show you a picture. And therefore it doesn't pick up the sound of the other mic. Also, you need what's called a pop filter, because if you go like that, it crackles, and you need to avoid that. Now, depending on your room, if you've got lots of soft furnishings, you can noise proof. You can buy sort of pads. It's like sort of foam egg boxes. However, just by putting the curtains up, it made a massive difference. So if you are recording at home, you may not need anything. But if you've got a sort of an office room which you convert, then you might find that the curtains do that job as well. Our main issue was stopping the sound of ambulances and fire engines and things going outside of the office. But that's worked really well. So a combination of putting the blinds down and putting the curtains down, that's completely blocked the outside sound. And also because of the editing, you can get rid of the low volume stuff. The only thing you can't get rid of is telephones. So it's really important to remove any phones from the room and people's smartphones, of course. And also one of our guests, I won't say who it was, he started clicking his pen and I couldn't stop him because at that time we thought we were going to use the audio and I couldn't really sort of stop him and say, hey, don't click your pen. Don't do that, because also there's a click noise in the background. And also coughing. If somebody's got a cough, then you're probably better off not recording that day and coming back later. Now, if you're going to go to the video setup, then you'll definitely need to have curtains and light levels. You're going to need lights on tripods with a diffuser, and actually they're much cheaper than you might expect. You can get something decent for about £70, but you can obviously spend a lot more than that if you want to. You can record with a more expensive camera, but you're probably better off just getting a smartphone on a tripod, because the quality of the images on the smartphone are really good. But you may need more than one, because you probably want an image for each person, as well as sort of like a view of them being recorded. So what we're doing with that is for the ones where we want to take people talking together, we're actually going to record downstairs because the background's much nicer. Whereas when you're just doing audio, it doesn't matter so much with the background. So what I've done here is I've just done some screenshots from my Amazon purchases. So I've got two mics. They're very, very similar. In fact, we thought they were the same to start with. One is, I can't actually read that, SUTAC, and the other is a Tonner. The SUTAC was the better of the two. But unfortunately, the disadvantage of it being more sensitive was it actually picked up the sound of the other one. So that's why we ended up investing in the sound shields. So if you want something in a room with two of you quite close together, then you might be better off with the Tonner. But these were the best sellers in Amazon anyway. You can't really see this. It looks like a screen, but it's actually about 12 inches high, and it's like a semicircle. And that is the sound shield. It's got like a film, and it's on its own sound, and that sits behind behind the mic. And then actually the most expensive item was the curtains, which was about £100, and then double-sided tape so we could fit them flush to the walls and sort of almost create like an air gap as well. That lot cost £270. Now, we'd already got lights. So we'd already got this set of lights, which was 70 quid. But the ring light, which goes on your laptop, is only 15. And if you want to spend a bit more money, the ones that we've got are quite the old-fashioned bulbs, but there's lots of LED lights. But you do need a diffuser, and the warmth of the light is quite important. One light on its own isn't enough. You definitely need at least two. Because we blacked everything out in our room, we might have needed three even. But you can see really low investment, and as I said earlier on, you can pretty much get away without spending any money. You could, but it depends on the quality of where you are at home, what your setup is, the quality of your laptop, and if you do need lights and mics, then you're probably talking about spending about 90 quid. Okay, now I think this is the most important part, and this is the software. Now, I did actually contact a few of my colleagues who I knew did podcasts to get their advice. And what they did was if you go to buzzsprout.com, they've got the best resource center I've seen on podcasting. And actually, we use their package for the next stage. And they've got a really... whereas I'm doing a sort of a summary guide today and doing it quite visually, they've got like a massive blog with all the links and all the advice on what you should and shouldn't do. So Katie, if you could pop over to buzzsprout.com and you can load that link in, I think people will find that really helpful. So the first thing you need to understand is what you need to do with the software. So it really is divided into 4 areas. So first of all is actually recording. And now we're using the webinar software at the moment, but the difference between, and in theory, we could have used this. It hasn't got any podcast editing features, but the difference between the webinar software and podcasting software is, as you'll know, when I'm recording, occasionally my internet goes a bit crackly and the sound quality goes down. Now, with a podcast, what happens is that it's being recorded locally, and you actually get 3 versions. You get the version of the combined of you and the guests, and you can have more than one guest, of course. And then you also get the separate streams from each of the local laptops, which is uploaded. So even if the internet goes down, it's being recorded locally, which is great, because the other day, for example, Holly hadn't completely uploaded hers, and she was able to go and get the backup file and send it over, and we were able to complete the editing process. Now, what this does is it allows you to record virtually. You set up a studio, you have all your recordings in there, but you can do some, depending on which one you go for. We're going with Riverside, which is really highly recommended. It's got some additional features like transcription. You can make snippets, etc. Put chapters, which I definitely recommend you do. We're still doing that, so we'll probably upload new versions as we improve it. But at the moment, we've just got the sort of simplest version. There is some editing tools within Riverside, but we found that because we needed to do things like dampen down the alternative mic and play around, we ended up using Adobe Creative Cloud, and I'll talk about the different apps within there. Now, you're going to need this anyway, because you're going to need Photoshop or something, one of the other creative packages within Adobe to create your artwork. However, if you haven't got Adobe and you can't afford that, you can use Canva to do the artwork, and then you can go for just one of the editing tools. And I would recommend probably, if you're going to do video as well, go for Premiere. But if you're just going to go for sound, then Audition would be the one to go for, and I'll cover that in a minute. The Buzzsprout, the reason why that came up is they're a hosting and distribution platform. There are some others that you can look at. You can also look at transcription software, but I've been really impressed with Buzzsprout. It also creates you a landing page website, which you can change the name of, where you effectively have all of your podcasts or your videos hosted. And then the final thing, I've just got one example, and I've realized that I've actually got the name of this wrong. It's actually FeedSpot. So if Katie, if you could put feedspot.com, I've realized I've grabbed that and put the wrong name. So hopefully I've got that right later on. Okay, so let's talk about the production side then. So the first thing you need to be aware of is that this tool allows you to do it virtually. It's an online recording studio, but actually you can use the same software while you're live as well. And we've got a live account, so I can go to the studio, but I can also view my recordings. It's always encouraging you to upgrade, of course. And once you log in, you can log in with your headphones and without. This looks like a mugshot, doesn't it? It's terrible. I took this yesterday in my bedroom. And it's got like all white, boring walls. The advantage of having a white, of course, or a green screen behind you is you can put different backgrounds behind it. But you can see I'm on the left, and then what happens is you invite your guest to join you. You can also invite your producer. Now, don't make the mistake. If you're going to do tests, make sure the other person is a guest, because you won't be able to hear the producer. Although they can come in and they can see what's going on and they can get access to everything, their voice is never recorded. So you just need to be aware of that. And then what happens is you hit the go button, and there's a 5-second countdown, and then you can turn that off at the end. You can name the video, and you've got some various settings, including echo cancelling and things. It's really simple to use, really intuitive. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you this video. Now I'm hoping it's going to work. So I've got the link here. Let me go and grab the link because it's incredibly funny. I'm going to try and share my screen. Now it may not work, but let's try and see. Let's go to entire screen, share. And I think I've already got it loaded actually. But I'm going to hit the go button and you need to tell me if you can hear it or not. So this is one that we recorded earlier. And even if you can't hear it, you'll... Okay, so that isn't the right one. But also what I can hear is there's a really bad echo. So let me just check that I just checked that I have got the right one in the link. And then you can go and look at it yourself. Yeah, the one in the link is correct. If you want a good laugh, go and have a look. Go and have a look at that because it's hilarious. We both end up in a complete giggle in fit, which is the disadvantage of some of these videos. We found that I just need to stop sharing my screen. Sorry. Let me go. Okay. Yeah, so you should be able to grab the link in the chat. Let me just make sure I put it in the chat. I can't remember whether I did or not now. Okay, so go and grab that and have a good laugh later on. It's hilarious. We absolutely, and we did about 5 takes before we got started. Okay, so this is examples of previous viewing. So you can see these are the ones where it's been done virtually and the quality just isn't good. Can you see all the differences in the lighting, the backgrounds, etc.? So this is at this point, and then the editing, we decided that we were going to do audio only. And then this is us playing around in the studio, and the ones in the studio, the sound quality is much better. But of course, it's difficult for us to get in all the time. So what we're going to do, we're still playing around with the background. We've got to put the black curtain across the background completely. So what we're going to do is we're going to record with the equipment, the new equipment we've bought, but we're going to do that when we're in the office and do snippets, which I think would be great for social. Now this package, you can get going for free, but you don't really get enough. And so because we want to do 4 hours or more sessions a month, we've gone for $24. But you can get started pretty much and at least practice for free, and then you can upgrade as you need to. So the next thing you need to do is editing. So within the so if I went and had a look, you can see here I've got the 3 streams, the combined one, and then each of the ones that have been uploaded separately, and then you've got an edit button. So it is possible to do a limited amount of editing. You decide what format you want, whether you want a story, a post, or a full length. And then if you go in, I did a full width, and then you can see you've got the voice here, and you can play around. So there's a limited amount of video. I know there are other free video editing tools out there, but if you are serious about this, then you're probably going to have to go over to Adobe. So the Premiere is for video and Audition is for audio. The advantage of using the Audition is you get to each of the streams separately. So you can, for example, do noise suppression on one while the other one, or you can do some formulas like or apply rules like, anything over a certain decibel is cut out. So if you Audition is, and they're both $19 plus VAT if you buy them separately. But if you buy the full Creative Cloud, then this is including VAT. then this is £61 a month or 62 quid, and this is 27 quid, 26 and a half. But that will get you Photoshop and everything else that you need, Adobe Sign and lots of other things as well. So that might be a better option for everybody. And then using Buzzsprout, which is next. So this is a Buzzsprout hosting. So again, this was recommended by a number of people. And the reason that this is really important is that by hosting on here, you've got like a mini website, and then you create what's called an RSS feed. And then that RSS feed then is uploaded to sites like Spotify and Apple. And then it's dynamically uploaded every time you add a new episode. So the first thing, I've got two accounts. I've got my original one, which I started with, which was going to be called Ask Annika. And that is, so this is what it looks like when you first go in. You've got 2 hours that you can upload. And then I've got my live account, which is the paid for account, which I'll show you in a second. So this is what it looks like. You can go to the website, you can get your links, and you can see at the moment there's no branding. You can add all that. And then once you've added all your branding, that's what the website looks like without any branding. So this is sort of like a raw website. I've not added any image. I've not changed any colors or anything. And then what you can then do is you can customize it by adding a header. You can play around with the background color, and then it looks like this. This is obviously once I've added a description, and I've got my cover image, I've got my individual episodes, so the 6 that I've already loaded up. There's information about the host. So this is what you can click through to, and I gave you a link to that earlier on. Okay. The other thing is you can see where I've already got it. So these are other places and platforms. So it's on Spotify. It's not on Apple yet because we need to use the Annika Apple account, and you have to do that with somebody who's actually logged in. So we just need to get 2 people in the room or on Zoom at the same time to do that. But you can see there's a range of other ones there. This is reviewing your episodes. So this gives you an idea of the functionality you've got. So you can add a transcript, you can add chapters. I've already created a snippet, and then you've got the ability to edit it. And then when you go in, you can edit the description. This is the image, and then there's a load of other settings underneath. So you can number the episodes, and you can put links in. You can create a footer, which goes onto all of them. So there's loads of functionality. This took a little bit of time just getting used to knowing what you could do with it. And then these are the ones I've already uploaded. So this is in the episode section, and I can upload another one. Stupidly, I should have uploaded 2 hours for free before I paid. But so I'm going to have to pay a little bit extra because I've already used nearly all my six hours. And then obviously when I click over into April, then I can I'll be able to load some more. But I think it's about $3 per hour to load extra ones, which is great to start with. Oops, everything seems to have gone on go slow. Hold on a second. Okay, so this is how you link to and publish in the directories. So you can see the Apple podcast isn't done yet. The ones that are in green are. iHeartRadio doesn't seem to be a UK thing, so I wasn't able to do that one. And it gives you instructions what you need to do. In most cases, you just put the URL of the RSS feed. In other cases, you actually have to go over. However, you can't do that without setting up an account. So the big thing that you need to do is, and it's not obvious from this, is that basically you have to go over and set up an account in each of the directories. Then you use Buzzsprout to link your RSS feed, and all you're basically doing is putting the URL of your RSS feed. But some of these can be done from within Buzzsprout. That's dead easy. And then others like Apple, you actually have to log in and do it via the directory. So that's probably slightly more confusing. But if you follow the instructions within Buzzsprout are really easy. And then this is really cheap. So we've gone for 6 hours a month, which is $18. We don't need any more than that at the moment. So that's the one we've got. So again, you can start at quite a low cost. So once you've actually got them on the directives, I just want to show you what it looks like. So if I go and do a search for new, I did the latest digital marketing, you can see my podcast there. You can also see that on this view, it's too small. So whereas I can read that one, I can sort of read some of these others, I'm going to need to make that a little bit bigger. But if I do click through, it looks great. I've got my Annika Cast marketing podcast. I'm sort of regretting that I'm not called it digital marketing podcast because there's so many marketing ones. I may change that, but we are covering lots of other topics. So that's why I've done that. And then you can go in and you can see the individual episodes. If I go to one of the other directories, which you might not have heard of, this is called Podcast Index. You can see again, you've got the individual episodes. And I think this is why I ended up getting the name wrong. I started saying pod. I sort of hybridized this one and the next one, which I'll show you in a second. So promotion then. So I called it podcast. It's actually Feedcast. So apologies for that. So this is where you can actually pay to get your podcast listed. There is a certain amount of organic listings, but it's worth paying to get up there first. And depending on which package you go for, you can see I've added 3. So I've got my YouTube channel, my blog, and my podcast, and I can edit it. So I went for the channel with 3. You can also buy lists of influencers, but I actually don't recommend that. I think that was a bit expensive. And what you do is you edit it, play around with the settings, and then once you've actually done that, if you look here, I'm in, I think I'm in a digital marketing podcast. You can see I'm number 6. And then I'm also, if you go down and you're looking blogs or you're looking YouTube videos, sometimes you might find you're actually there organically as well. So of course, because we've done so many webinars, our webinars are pretty well indexed. And sometimes, blogs have been listed for years. The cost of the packages. So I went for 29 because I wanted 3 sites because I wanted to use this to promote my blog and my YouTube channel as well. The other advantage, of course, is every time you get listed in these, you're also getting links. I haven't checked whether they're follow links or not, but that potentially will help with your SEO as well. So I thought that was worthwhile anyway. And then you can use social media to promote. So this is LinkedIn, this is a snippet, and this is the pop-up that you saw earlier on. So we've also created some carousels so you can see the different ones, and then you can release them on a daily basis. Gurpreet, who's doing all the promotional stuff and is now doing the editing, she's got an email. I'm not sure if this has gone out yet or whether this is going out, whether this went out last week. So this is an email with all of the different podcasts. I think we may well resend that out with the new ones. So this can be done on a monthly basis with all the new ones. And then on to analytics. First of all, you've got analytics within Buzzsprout, but then also you've got analytics within each of the platforms, and you get different quality data. So the Buzzsprout is a really good starting point. So we've had 67 downloads in the last 20 days, and then you can see what the most popular ones are. You can also see that Spotify and the BuzzFeed site. In the UK, we would expect Apple to do well, but that's not loaded yet. And you'll see the spike. So this is when we sent out the social post. This is when, I think that's when the email went out. I'm going to show you this live in a second. And we can do some questions as well. Then you've got the Spotify metrics. So this gives you an idea how many views you've got here. And I was really wanting to see a little bit more detail of the individual podcasts. So I've given you 2 lots here. So this is an episode where this is one where you've got a really good engagement rate and you actually only had a little bit of a falling off. And then this is one where it obviously wasn't very popular and it fell off. So people thought it was different from what it was going to be. So this is the sort of one where we've got to look at the beginning of the and we may need to re-edit it, or we need to look at the title and see if we can get the engagement, because that is not going to do your popularity very good and you're more likely to get lower rankings going forward. Finally, in conclusion, so I've divided my conclusions into getting started, sound versus video, design and promotion and costs, and I think I've got a highlighted version just to show you. So first of all, we were able to create our first 10 episodes because we piggybacked on our existing webinar program. If you haven't got anything that you can piggyback on, then you've got to create those, script them, organize that all in advance. You need to get really good quality sound, otherwise that's a problem. I think I've got an echo, Katie, with yours at the moment. If you can just turn your sound off, because I need to check that I haven't accidentally got the Riverside browser open, because that's going to cause problems. Then you need to look at the separate audio and video snippets, which is where we're going with it. We have set up a studio. You do need somebody with audio editing skills, although Gurpreet's been taught by Andras pretty quickly. I don't think she's done this before, but I don't think it's particularly difficult to do that. You do need to get all the design and promotional side right, because that is what attracts people. And I can see already we're going to need to have to change ours slightly, because when you go into the actual main platforms, it's not obvious what the title is. Anycast won't mean anything to anybody, so we need to make sure it talks about digital marketing. Most podcasts have less than 50 episodes, so longevity is important. It's going to take us it's going to take us how long? It's going to take us a year to get to 50. But we could, in theory, go back and record over previous topics and release more as a way of getting to a larger number quickly. You need to use your stats to work out how to improve the episodes, and you need to invest in ads to make sure you get the reach and awareness. And then actually you can do this really cheaply, and most of the cost is in the actual software. So if you look here, I've laid out the cost of the equipment, the software licenses, and I kept on calling this PodSpot by the end. That's actually a good name. Perhaps we should go and buy that domain. That's actually FeedSpot. And so you can see your initial costs were £15 plus £22 a month. So after 3 months, it's only 82 quid. Now, obviously, you can buy mics and other things, but you could get started really, really cheaply. And then what we did was the nice to haves with the studio, with the lighting and the directories and the microphones and soundproofing. It's going to be £714 over 3 months. So sort of different, slightly more expensive because of the initial outlay. But I guess once you get over the first year, the costs aren't going to be a lot of difference per month. Excellent. So what I'll do now is I'll just quickly go live. Well, do you want to do the reviews before it's?
Yeah, of course.
And then lots of questions.
So just posting these here, obviously Anne's put a heart and soul into this one, you can really see. So if you could leave a review, that'd be great. So I put a Google tab up, and then I'll just do Reviews.io as well. And I'm sure you know from attending lots of the webinars that actually the Google review ones are good for local SEO. So
absolutely,
for you adding any reviews that you can, that'd be great. We've had a few questions, Anne, but I've managed to answer them. But it might be worth getting your take on it potentially.
Okay, I saw somebody commenting about the music. I think that's absolutely spot on. I didn't mention that, so thank you.
Well, I mean, from things I've done in the past, there's royalty-free music, and I found a Buzzsprout link which goes into kind of where to get suitable music from for free. So there's that, and then someone was asking about the pricing. There's been a lot of positive feedback about Tom's logo.
Yeah. But not many of you have been on yet, so you need to. Can we bring up the offer? So let me just refresh.
Yeah, no, I can do that. It's fine.
And see, I was expecting a few more of you to have gone on this morning and clicked through, unless of course you've already been.
They've been listening so intently, so they wouldn't. And then James Ward said, "Why would you do video as well as audio?" And I said, "Well, that's obviously to get it across more channels, and it's very powerful." But I don't know if you want to add that.
It's to do with YouTube, because YouTube's got a massive audience. So what we're going to be doing is we will record some of them in the studio. Because we're working hybrid, most of us are at home on a Friday morning. So unless we're actually in the office for the staff meeting, it doesn't quite work for us. Yeah, if anybody wants to contact me, then that's not very clear, is it? I'll type my email in here. Because obviously with the experience of Andras of doing audio and also video, he also creates videos and does animation. That is a new service that we're offering. So if any of you are interested in any of our creative services, it's something that we've invested in. Tom, who's been here for 2 years, and Andras, who joined us from Saatchi and Saatchi Brain Labs just before Christmas. So we want to keep them really busy. So if any of you have got any creative work, of course, we'd love to hear from you. Any questions I need to answer?
No, I think that's it. Lots of positive feedback though, so well done, Anne.
Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, Richard asked about the license, so yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Well, thanks very much, everybody. I can't believe I did that in an hour. There was a lot of and apologies for my ability to hybridize. That's trying to do things late at night. So I'll go and collect that. Oh, I'm getting some love and some hearts. That's nice. It's always nice to get a bit of love in the morning. Thanks a lot, everybody. And next week, I think it's me again. Sorry about that. But I'm going to be showcasing all our new services and all the new things that you need to be doing to improve your digital marketing. So it's not really designed to be a Annika plug, although I'm guessing it will be to a certain extent. But it's all the new stuff that you need to be aware of. And it's sort of like an Annika showcase. I will be, I'm not sure if any of the other strategists are joining me or not, because it's voluntary for them, but we will be doing a podcast with individual interviews with each of the team members. So it's a really good way of understanding exactly what we do at Annika and what techniques you should be doing for your business as well.
Looking forward to that one.
All right then, guys. Thanks a lot.
See you soon.
Bye.